we are going to be going through in some detail the contract proposals that have been presented to us, because you've seen the contract proposals we presented. But the contract proposals have been presented to us. I talked about it a little bit in the newsletter, but this is in more detail. We are meeting, Paul, the attorney, and I are meeting with their attorney, Susan Williams and Rich Cavallero, tomorrow, just to put not to negotiate anything, but to have one last attempt at either getting some stuff off the table, mostly on their end. We don't have that much left. Getting stuff off the table, or saying, okay, we're going to have to arbitrate it, or we will negotiate this with the full team next week or the week after. We will see if we can get to that point. Anybody who's on the negotiating team, John, anybody can tell you this. There have been no negotiations. They list their proposals. We push back. We ask them to explain their proposals, and they say, well, we think it's important. As though the answer to that would be, oh, okay, then never mind. You just take it. We think it's important is not an answer to a proposal. I mean, not an answer to a question. So we hit impasse at lightning speed, but we don't want to go to arbitration on 48 issues, or we'll be in arbitration until everyone on the call is retired. So, which, for Emily and Dan is a while. So we need to, I'm hoping we can get some stuff off tomorrow. We'll see. But we'll go over it. You know, I mean, you'll recognize some of this stuff we can't. Some of this stuff, even if they said, but in exchange, we'll give you an 8% raise plus a step, we'd still say no. Because ultimately that's, you got to work there too. So Em, whenever you're ready. I did this
Okay, you should be good.
Very proud of it. Okay. So the first one, this is their proposals. Not the biggest deal in the world, but currently, if someone wants to drop the union, they have to tell the board and the union. Their proposal says no, they only have to tell the board, which A, violates the entire theory we have of our membership cards, and B, would be a nightmare because we don't get a list of people who aren't members. We only get a list of people who are members. So people would drop it, we wouldn't even know they dropped because we wouldn't see them on, they just disappear. It's not, I don't think this is going to be like, this is not an arbitration issue. They'll agree to this. Nobody has this language. They'll be fine. Okay. This is a big deal. Currently, Bob or I, or any officer can go into a building and meet with, you have to go talk to the principal or their designee, and then you can meet with the member as long as you're not interrupting administrative assignments or teaching duties. And we do that all the time. They want that we cannot meet with any bargaining unit during the school, member during the school day. Well, that's insane. Like that's not what we've never had that. This contract started in 1978. I will say that 50 times. And in 43 years, we have had this. We have had complaints from exactly 3 principals, 2 of whom were married, about it. And it wasn't that we were interfering. It's just that they just didn't like us being there, which is not a thing. So I'm somewhat confident we can get this one off the table tomorrow. Okay, I gotta lead way in on this one. Oh, this is an issue which, because we're state employees and because we're one of 36 bargaining agents, we have to hold firm on. They want to be able to, if they believe they can save money by doing it, subcontract substitute work. So in fact, he used the Kelly Temp agency as an example. We'll just go to Kelly Temp if we think we can save money by doing that. Well, A, they can't. B, we're not allowing privatization of our substitutes. We're not allowing privatization in because that's a slippery slope for everybody. Once we allow them to privatize subs, well, now the maintainers might be privatized, and pretty soon, we've got some weird mix of state workers and and non-state workers teaching. So we can't do that. But if you talk to a substitute, it's why it's important for them to become members. Because when we have no membership there, it's hard to argue that we should do it. This one I almost fell off the chair when I saw it the first time. It says, Article 2 is management rights. It lists basically everything. And then the Article 2, Section 2 says, it is agreed that the board and its agents will not use its retained rights in such a manner as to nullify, abrogate, or circumvent the terms of this agreement, meaning they can't claim it's a management right if there's something in the contract that says it's not, like that we've negotiated. They want to take that out, which would basically render the contract a series of suggestions. I was telling everybody earlier, we've gone through and we have created a list of, we have 4 other unions that we have in our buildings. There's actually 7, but we just picked 4 not at random because they were most logical. The Administrators Union, A&R, which has our business people, CUI, which has our maintainers, and ASME, which has our clerical people. Every single one of them has language that's just like that or very similar to that in their contracts. And they want to take it from us. So there you go. We suggested a 3% GWI for 4 years. GWI is general wage increase. I can't remember. It might have been 3.5. They said 0 for 4 years. That's not the district. Every single bargaining unit in the state, all 32 who are negotiating, have received no GWI for a 4-year contract. The next one is they want to eliminate the degree scale, which they negotiated like 8 years ago, 10 years ago. We want to have it for the life of the contract. They want to eliminate it for the life of the contract, which means it's eliminated forever. Obviously, we don't think that's appropriate. We want an increment every year. That's a step. 4 years, 4 steps. They want no increments for the life of the contract. None, 0. And we have the top step bonus for the life of the contract. They want to get rid of the top step bonus for the life of the contract. Again, this is OPM. This is Office of Policy and Management. Every bargaining unit's facing this, and literally no one thinks they're going to get anything close to this because we have surpluses this year, and there's a projected surplus next year. So you have a very hard time arguing you can't pay when you've got extra money. But obviously their proposal isn't really a 0, it's a minus. Because most people either get the degree scale or the top step bonus or both. On this call, among the officers, Emily gets the degree scale. I get top, Tamara and I get, Paul Bob and I get top step bonus, and Bob gets the degree scale also. So we understand these are all 0, like these are next steps backwards. All right, personal days. This is a Rich Caballero special. I would bet my oldest child on it, because he always believes he should know why you're taking a PL day. And we have always said it's personal business that cannot be conducted at any other time. And we say that for very good reasons, because some of our principals or administrators aren't particularly trustworthy. I had a friend who used most of her pre-L days for a decade or two dealing with her son's drug addiction. The principal would have told everybody about that, and she didn't want him to know because it was nobody's business. We have a principal who has been no longer with us. I mean, he's alive, but he's not in the system, who regularly tried to get women, female teachers, to become emotionally dependent on him. If he had the right to pry into why you had a personal day, he would have been like wet clothes on people. Like, it would have been a disaster. Again, nobody else, no other contract has these provisions about not being able to take 2 days in a row, not being able to extend a weekend, nothing. None of them have it. You know, that's just, they don't, the administrators who want this don't have it in their own contract. CUI, the maintainers only have to provide a reason if they give less than 24 hours notice. So the maintainers are treated with far more professionalism than we are. Not that there's anything wrong with being a maintainer, but it just shows the level of animosity that some of these proposals have. This one's no big deal. We can borrow a PL day from the following year if both the union president and the superintendent agree. I think in 14 years as an officer, it's happened once. So I don't think it's an issue really. I mean, we could give that up, that sort of thing. Anything that they have to give, you know. Paul, I'll let you talk on this one.
Okay, so this is this irritates me to no end. The way tuition reimbursement is set up right now, it is self-destructing at the current level for a number of different reasons. Class costs have gone up, the amount of people accessing it for 092s, new shop teachers, younger academic teachers. So the path we're on, it's going to self-destruct. The funds ran out February 6th. That means for this year alone, we'll have 5 months in arrears moving forward. In previous year, it ran out April 8th. So our proposal for 750, and what do they want to do? They want to lower it to 350. It was I was the one who put the proposal forward to stop paying for the doctorate because it just made sense. There's not one position in our bargaining unit that requires a PhD. You know, that's 32 credits. You know, I'm looking at the staff and job requirements. So that got a TA, which is a tentative agreement. So when the contract is signed, whenever that is moving forward, you won't be able to enter into a doctorate program. But we're going to hold strong on this. This is one of those things that we need to get young teachers in. This needs to be healthy and working. And right now, even at current levels, it's not.
To be clear on the doctoral program, if you are in the doctoral program when the contract is signed,
yes,
then we will continue paying. It'll continue to be paid for, but not new doctorates. Hey, Paul, would you like to guess what the cap is for the administrators union? What their pool of money is?
I don't know if I want to know, but what is it?
There is no cap. They get to take 12 classes on anything that helps them meet their objectives or the objectives of the district, as long as the superintendent approves. And if every single person took 12 classes, that would be fine.
There you go.
Which would be more than we have. All right. This one doesn't matter. Sometimes I get to be too much of a completist. That's the LPN program. Anything that mentions the LPN program, we took out. So this one, I'm pretty sure will be eliminated tomorrow. but the sheer gall of doing it, just, I can't, we almost felt, there was another one, we never mind fall off our chairs, we nearly burned them in the room. In addition to getting no extra money and actually less money than you've had ever, I mean, than you've had, got this year. You'll also work 2 days for free. We're going to work 190 days, not 188. We're going to teach, you'll be in the classroom 186, and they'll compensate you by doing nothing except making you come to work. There's no money involved at all. As I said at the time, and as I'll say again tomorrow, we can't negotiate that. Like, that's not a discussion. What, are we going to feel good if we get down to 1 day for free? No, when you bring that up, you're just trying to stick your finger in the eye. And so that was one of the proposals that got us to say, what's the purpose of any of this? Why are we doing this? Because if you're going to be that ridiculous, what are we going to say? And I believe tomorrow that'll come off the table. I know there are people at central office that are a little embarrassed about that. Of course, it's worse. It gets worse. This one's kind of interesting. We were talking about it quite a while last night, Danny, Bob, Paul and I, when we were getting ready for tomorrow. They want, right now the contract says you can't start any earlier than 7:15 or leave any later than 3. They want to make that 3:15. So you'd work 7:45 to 3:15. This is one of those clear winner and loser ones. There are people that would love it. There are people who suddenly can't get their kids in the afternoon. I don't know the individual district they're talking about. I think it's Stanford. I think it's Wright Tech, but I don't know that for a fact. And when we asked them to explain it, they said, well, it gives us increased flexibility, which doesn't mean anything. Like, tell us why you want it. Like, maybe it's something that they can't avoid. Maybe there's some school district somewhere that's saying, look, we're not sending you the bus. We're not sending the bus till 2:50, and they're scared of having, kids around with no teachers. And maybe we could figure out something where it's a voluntary or whatever. We could do something else, but they won't tell us why. I guess it's on a need to know basis, and even though we're in negotiations, we don't need to know. In addition to working more days, you're also working more nights for free. Employees may be required to attend the following meetings as part of their professional responsibilities, which, by the way, means no more compensatory half days. Open house, career nights, and then 2 other events designated by the school administration in collaboration with the teaching staff. And I'm sure you'll do a lot of collaborating. And then attendance at additional events, evening events or activities, is voluntary but is encouraged, which shows that those 4 nights, it's mandatory, which we don't have a mandatory night event. This gets us to one of the things that is a real struggle for us in dealing with this attorney and the state's attorney. They're the attorney they hired plus the one they actually have. They're used to dealing with school districts. They're used to. Teachers negotiate under the Teacher Negotiation Act. We do not. We negotiate under the State Employee Act. So when I say we have more in common with the Department of Transportation than we do with the local high school, that's what I'm talking about. There is not a state agency anywhere that says, by the way, as part of your professional responsibilities, we are going to give you mandatory evening meetings that we're not giving you comp time for and we're not paying. There are no comps to that. School districts, there's a million, but not state workers. So I don't think they understand how I don't think they understand that. I just don't think they get it. I think they think, well, wait, my kid's high school has that. Why can't we have it? Well, because we're not a local high school. We're a state agency. That's why. All right. This is a mess. This is a transfer language. Danny, do you want to just talk about their theory of transfers now?
They get to tell you where you work, and you don't have any say in it. So basically what they want is to eliminate all of our transfer rights in terms of voluntary transfers. And they want to expand on their rights for administrative transfers, so that not only can they administratively transfer you if they feel they need to fill a position, but with a larger radius than we currently have, but they also feel that they should be able to administratively transfer you for disciplinary reasons with any transfer radius. So the principal at LS Tech doesn't like you, and so they decide to transfer you to Wright Tech, effectively adding 4 hours to your commute every day.
So this is a proposal of specifically voluntary transfers. I will say this. I've done, we did all the comparisons between these 4 locals. We have the best voluntary transfer language there is. Except when we talked to them about it, they kept saying, well, we have to move inadequate teachers and that ruins a building. It's like, well, number one, it's ruining a building now. If somebody's a bad teacher, like, I don't know why you particularly care if one group of kids don't learn as opposed to another group of kids don't learn. You probably want them all to learn. And they have the right, if you're on supervisory assistance, you're not allowed to transfer. If you have an unsatisfactory evaluation, you're not allowed to transfer. But they don't ever give anybody unsatisfactory evaluations or put them on supervisory assistance, and then they bitch and moan that they're transferring. So, I mean, we said at the time, you're talking to the wrong bargaining unit. This is an issue for the principals. This is not an issue for us. We will see where this goes. Obviously, our proposal on transfers is to end the transfer exempt period. Nobody else has a transfer exempt period. But really the only group that has as good language are the maintainers. The maintainers have basically the same language we do. In fact, they have the exact, when you read it, it's really the same, it gets to the same place. So that's our comp. The maintainers have basically the same language. Yeah, but this is hard because people get recruited and said, hey, you can move. You can transfer close to home. And it's, oh, no, you can't. You'd have to fill out an application and compete against outside hires to go at anything. Yeah, this one was just another kind of stupid. Because they don't know what they're doing, they do things like say timely manner. That language I discovered is directly out of the AFSCME clerical contract. I mean, that is exactly the language they have for the clerical people. Okay. What they want to do is they're saying seniority is only going to come into play if qualifications are equal. But, and that it's not just, now they're saying it's experience in the specific program's trade area with experience in the last 5 years being preferred. But again, they also could just bring it to outside hires because you have to fill out an entire application. So it basically ends transfers as we know it. We have never seen this language ever in negotiations. No one has ever come up with this. In my memory, I don't know if Dan's father might remember something, but I never saw anything like this. And again, it takes seniority out of being a factor. It's just not seniority is no longer what determines who can go where. And it points out that they can transfers are completely 100% up to them. You can move if they want you to move. If they don't want you to move, you're not moving. End of story. Doesn't matter what there's no one more thing as a right to transfer. We have similar language for part-timers where it's very important because it's hard to get from 32 hours to 35 hours. And that's a big difference. That's going from the VSO1 scale to the VSO2 scale. Like, that's a big difference. And they want to get rid of that too, which we got last year, or last negotiations. They signed off on it quickly. Like, that wasn't right there. I don't know if anybody remembers, like, who was there, but I remember that going, like, they took that in 2 minutes. So now it's an issue. This thing that's never been an issue is now an issue. Next. All right. They also want to change the layoff language completely. Where I said the transfer language may end up being like, we may have to negotiate something there. Just looking at the comps, we may have to negotiate something. The layoff language, I don't think there is a contract in the United States that does not have seniority as a determining factor on layoff and recalls. And they want us to be the first. So the first thing is, like, why you need to lay off. And they just made, I don't even know what that phrase means. But they no longer have to tell you by June 1st. Every other contract has a like timeline. It's 60 days notice, it's 90 days notice, it's at UCP in the higher ed, it's 365 days notice. They can't lay you off unless they give you a year. We have you can't be laid off unless they notify you for June 1 for the following year. So basically it's 2 months, 3 months. But they want to get rid of that. They want to be able to call you August 18th and say, hey, I know you're getting ready for school, but your job isn't there anymore. So bye. So that's, yeah. They don't want department heads to be able to replace department heads. If you're a department head and you get laid off, you are required to demote. And you only demote into a vacancy, basically. A vacancy or something held by a or the least senior instructor or a temporary instructor, like a durational instructor. That's it. So department heads can bump it, the least experienced teacher, but they can't bump another department head, and that's it. If you're an instructor, you can move into an opening, or you can bump a durational employee or a non-tenured employee, but you can't bump anybody else. That's a huge issue in some of our trades. Masonry, there's only like, 8 masonry teachers? So if they close the masonry program, there's gonna be nobody who's non-tenured. So it's a big issue. Next one. This is the weirdest thing. Department heads were always allowed to bump durational department heads. And they decided that a permanent department head cannot bump a durational department head, which means there is a durational department head somewhere whose job they're trying to protect. We have our guesses, and those are our members, and we don't want them to lose their jobs. But it's inconceivable that somebody who's in a durational position can't be bumped by somebody in a permanent position. There's no contract like that in the state. I don't think there's a contract like that in the country. Yeah, we didn't know what this meant. Sometimes that's something. We lost a lot of confidence in them, that they weren't just trying to screw us every way possible. So some of this stuff goes up there and it's just like, well, I can't figure out why this is bad, but I'm guessing it is. Oh, I don't know if Bob's available, because this is what he usually talks about. Or Paul.
Yeah, I'll take this one. So people are
I
put on
just unmuted Bob.
Okay.
Go ahead, Paul, and then I'll chime in after.
No, go right ahead, Bob.
All right, so this one here is kind of, it actually makes me sick. When you take a look at when somebody goes out on administrative leave, and you take a look at how long these people are out on administrative leave, it could be 2, 3, 4, 5 months, especially with a criminal investigation where the police are involved, DCF may be involved. This proposal says that you're going to go without pay during that time. And then if you're proven innocent, you'll get retroactive. In the entire time that I've been doing this job, I don't think anybody's been charged with or convicted of a criminal charge. So all these people would go months without pay, lose their house, not be able to feed their kids, not be able to pay for daycare. This is insane. This is just the most ridiculous clause or article that I've seen they come up with.
Yeah, if anybody else wants to add anything?
Yeah, and their response was, well, they'll be paid retro if it's, well, that's no consolation, and
Too late.
It's a poor
Yeah,
proposal.
It is not tremendously uncommon to have, I represented a couple of people who had accusations made about them for being inappropriate with students. And the student later said, yeah, that's not true. Didn't happen. I'm sorry. But it was much later. It was months later. And those people would have been, and the police looked into it and they didn't find anything, but they didn't close the case because they don't want to close the case and then have something bad happen. So they didn't close the case. And so it just stayed open forever, even though we had moved on. Those people wouldn't have gotten paid. And it's a disaster. As Danny said, they want to use administrative transfers, which in other contracts are called involuntary transfers, which I like better. They want to use administrative transfers to do whatever the hell they want. So right now it says, well, you can't use an administrative transfer to circumvent somebody's voluntary transfer rights. Well, they've taken away all voluntary transfer rights. So now they're saying, well, so we can use administrative transfers to do that. And then next. If they're administratively transferring you for the following year, they have to tell you by May 15th, and we get a hearing. And over the last decade or so, we have won a lot of those hearings. That superintendents have administratively transferred people, and HR said, yeah, you don't have a reason to do that. Because in most places you think like, oh, administrative transfer, there's no electrical teacher, like there's no machine teacher in Wyndham, but there are 3 at Cheney, so we're going to move one person over there so they each have somebody. That's what you would normally think of an administrative transfer. That's not how they're used at all. In most cases, they have swapped people. They've moved 2 department heads, just have them change schools. They got it in their head one time that married couples shouldn't be in the same building and started breaking up all the married couples and moving them to different schools. There's been all kinds of just crazy things like that we've wanted these hearings. So rather than say, either we need to do a better job at a hearing or maybe we're not behaving well, their attitude was, well, let's just take away the hearing. So that's where we are on that one. Again, administrative transfer rights are in every other contract are very similar to what we have now and not at all similar to what they want. Last year, this one particularly pissed me off. Last year, last negotiations, we swapped. Used to be 30-day notification, 55 miles. They wanted to go to 50, and we said, we'll go to 15 if you go to 35 miles. They settled on 40. Okay. So we did 40. So we got 15, they got 40. And now, having gotten the 15 for 40, they now are saying, we don't want to wait 15 days. And by the way, we're going back to 55. Unless it's discipline, and as Danny said, then it's wherever you want to go. 55 is the number in the administrator's contract, but they have 30 days. And in almost every other contract, it says you cannot use administrative transfers or involuntary transfers for discipline. It says it in the administrator's contract. The same people who wrote this language, because two of the superintendents are missing, the same people who wrote this language for us made sure it wasn't there for them. So if you want to know what they think about you, that's it. It's good for me, not for you. This one is crazy talk. Who was the one that had somebody call him about this? Oh, it was Tommy Viola. So it doesn't do any good. We have language in our contract which says that if you're in your 4th year, you have a break in service, that service has to be made up before you're tenured. So if you miss 3 months, and by miss, I mean you're off payroll, then it takes you another 3 months to get your certification, your tenure. Okay, makes sense. But if you could miss literally 8 months a year for the first 3 years, it doesn't affect. Okay, I get that. I get why you'd want to change that. But the way they changed it is to say you need to have 4 years of continuous active full-time service. And this is one of their about 17 proposals where the impact on women is so much greater than it is on men that it's offensive, because the number one reason in our system people come off payroll, and it is not close, is women have babies. That is the number one reason. And so here, you're teaching somewhere, you come in, you start, your first year grade, second year grade, third year grade, fourth year, you had a baby. Okay, you have to start all over again under this proposal. So now you teach year 5, year 6, year 7, you have your second child. Okay, now you're starting all over again. So you won't get tenured until you're 11 years in. That's insane. And what's even more insane is that 2 of the 3 people that are responsible for most of these provisions are women. And here, Paul, Danny, Bob, and I are arguing that, wait a second, this hurts women and not men. And like, we should not be the feminists in the room. Like, if you're waiting for old white guys and a young white guy to be the feminists in the room, you're probably not doing things correctly. I gotta lean into this one. Oh, this one they're gonna probably get because it mirrors the Tenure Act. It changes the date of non-renewal notification from April 1 to May 1. That's all it does. And that May 1 is the new state language. This one, retroactive department head pay. We've already TA'd this. I could have taken this off. Usually, you have to wait 3 weeks before you tell them that you're a department head. You're an acting department head. They want to make it 4 weeks before you can become an active department head. Active department heads tend to be there for 9 months, and we get them finally paid retroactively back to the first day after like 7 months. But it's not. It doesn't change anything for anybody really, because it's still retroactive back to the first day. Oh, speaking of department head stuff, if you're a department head, Yeah, you had to go from 188 to 190 days and not get paid for the 2. But because you're a department head, you have a special bonus. You get to work 5 days during the summer for free. And the school principal will consult with you and tell you when you need to come in. So everyone will have to start planning their vacation around when the principal wants to take a cruise, to Acapulco. It's they're not getting this. No one gets anything where it says, and we want you to work for free. If they want to negotiate, if they want to say, we'll pay you your per diem, we'll send out, it won't be me. I'm sure the contract committee will send out a survey to the department and say, hey, are you interested in this? But that's not the proposal. The proposal is you'll do it, you won't get paid for it, and you'll like it. Even the principals think that one's stupid. Also, nothing requires them to fill or maintain department head positions. This might be the most dangerous thing in the contract because they have wanted forever. John's been on these committees, but John Pascal's been on these committees longer than I have. They always want to have clustered DHs, production trades, service trades, that, have one department head for each group. Kind of like we do in academics. And we always say we want the academics to be like trades where everybody has their own department. And what happens every time is they cancel each other out. But this time they tried something new. They don't have to maintain any or to fill any department head positions. So that's a disaster because they won't. The VSO3 scale is where most of it is the highest. When you look at total spending in each scale, it's a VSO3 scale that spends the most, even though there's far fewer people in VSO3 than there are in VSO2. It's because top step's $10,000 more. Bob, you can do this one because this is the appendix, the Article 21, Appendix B positions, where you file 12 grievances a year.
So basically what they want to do is they want to be able to appoint people into these positions at their discretion, at an administrator's discretion. Right now, that means that people that have put time in, that have seniority, would just be bumped because the principal, they did something maybe to the principal doesn't like them. We have seen poor decision making on the part of the administrators when it comes to this. They're saying that qualifications should be whatever they want it to be. So that's going to eliminate almost everybody but the person they want. Our system is much more fair. It has worked for, Ed, what has this been in the contract for 40 years?
No, this got into the contract. Because we had so many problems with administrators handing out these positions like candy bars on Halloween to their friends and their relatives and their golf coaches and their masseuses. And so we got the language in the contract to clean it up, and it has cleaned that problem up.
Right, and that's been in existence for a while.
And
yeah, we've had
25 years at least.
Yep, and we've had less, almost no issues regarding our language versus the way they used to do it. So, and now they just want to revert it back to whoever they want.
Right. We do have a million grievances on this because the principals hate it. The principals want it to be whatever they want it to be.
Yep. And
so they appoint the people, and then they have to pay 2 people, right? They have to pay the person that should have had it, and they pay the person that did have it. Again, the person who will be negotiating tomorrow for them was the king of it. Like he every year he had to pay at least a couple people. He had to pay for at least a couple positions twice. And rather than say, "Why don't you follow the rules?" their reaction was, "Well, why don't we change the rules?" Oh, currently, Bob schedules his grievances when it's convenient for him, the member, and the principal and HR. And now it's going to be just no, principal can schedule whenever he wants. The problem with this is they'll start scheduling grievances for 247, and then putting the teacher in a position of, do you want to stay or not? This isn't the biggest thing on the earth, because ultimately, even if they had it, they can't do anything until HR and Bob show up. So if HR and Bob say, I can't make it then, I gotta only make it now, they're gonna have to change. But obviously there's some insecurity there. So, oh, this one drives me crazy. Currently, a principal and a member cannot come to an agreement outside of the contract. So let's say a person's been disciplined, is being disciplined for coming in late 50 times in the last 4 months. We have those. And the principal says, well, I'll tell you what, I won't write you up if you stay after school till 4 for 2 weeks for free. And the person says, I don't want to be written up. Okay. Well, the answer is no, you can't do that. You can't make people work for free. I had someone who went to the principal. He was on a last chance agreement, broke the last chance agreement, was afraid he was going to be fired, and went to the principal and said, I will move me to part-time, pay me 3 days a week, and I'll work all 5. But that way I get to keep my health insurance. It's not a thing. You're not allowed to do that. They want to be able to do that. They want to be able to cut the union out of their dealings with the members. Again, there isn't a contract in the country that allows that. Like, you can't find any contract that allows that. Go through it. This one seems, I don't know. As Bob will tell you, they never follow the timelines. Not once. They never get it right. And so they want to just say, we don't have to follow the timelines. Okay, but they don't follow them anyway, and there's nothing we can do about it. Like, what are we going to do? So, it kind of just says what happens anyway, right? That's basically what happens.
They usually do not respond to our grievances. And in which case it's just accepted as a no, that they're going against us, and we just proceed to the next level. So we go from level 1 to level 2 to an arbitration.
Right.
It's the lack of inactivity means that they're against our call.
Right.
And to be honest, this is actually one of the reasons why having access to the school is important, because if we're in that stage where it's not a grievance yet, we have to interview somebody or talk to somebody, we need to get into the building. So, I mean, in order to defend the contract, we need access to the building. We need access to our members.
Okay. If you wonder how touchy they are, Bob filed one grievance under Article 23. And they want to say, well, now you can't file an Article 23 is the anti-discrimination. Well, no, you can't file an article. You can't file a grievance under Article 23 anymore because you filed one grievance one time. Which, of course, is nuts because we have to. That pushes everything into what's that called? CHRO, which is a much more expensive and difficult process for them. So why they want this? They don't want this. They just don't know what they want. Next. They want a 4-year agreement. We want a 4-year agreement. We do not want the same agreement. athletic directors, which is the current language, coordinators, they want to call athletic directors. We're good with that. They also say athletic directors and or their designees, as may be permitted or determined by the principals, are expected to attend all home games and events and tournaments. Currently, we had an arbitration in 2005, I believe, that said, no, you can't make them go to all events. It's not in your contract. So now they want it in the contract. The problem with that is most of our athletic directors coach a sport or two. Sometimes, many times, because no one else will coach it, they won't be able to have the sport if they don't have a coach. So they want to put that person there. Again, this is a Cavallero thing. This bugs him. I had to defend, I don't know. I had to defend 3 consecutive athletic directors under him, who he wrote up for not going to games, even though they didn't have to. And so now he's mad about it. We have a provision that says if you're a full-time teacher and you have have a stipended position, an appendix B position, and after 3 years they want to remove you, you get a hearing with the superintendent or his her designee. I have had one of those in 14 years. You've never had one, right, Bob?
No.
I had one. And the principal is a designee. He listened and said, yeah, you're probably right. I'll give him another chance. And it went fine. But again, they want to not even have to bother to have a hearing with you where they have all of the power. Because we can't agree or arbitrate that. Whatever the decision is, that's the decision. We get final agreements or an arbitration on. So why it's a big deal to them is not clear, other than they just don't even want to pretend like we have any rights. Yeah, this doesn't matter. Oh, competing demands of other positions. That we've always accepted that. There was a woman at Abbott that had like 7 appendix B positions, and it was like a real problem. Not just because she couldn't do any of them well, because she was doing so many, but because nobody else got anything. She just used her seniority. So we have always accepted that. I don't have a problem with that, frankly. What the hell is this one? All right, hang on. Oh yeah, this is a seniority for part-time employees for layoffs. They don't want to have to deal with that. They want to just say whoever we want to lay off, we lay off. This is a step. The agreement also, the back of the what is it called? The supplemental agreement also has the 4-year provision. So that's it. That's it. Next one. Yeah. No GWI for hourly wages. We obviously put in a 3%. We also have a provision to allow them to go higher than that to pay people with specific skills. I ran night school for many years at Bullard Havens, and like, good luck getting somebody, an HVAC person, to come in and teach HVAC for $36.50 an hour when they make, $105 an hour. So we had that provision in there, but they don't, obviously there's no money in the contract. Okay. Next. Oh, that's it. So Paul, do you want to do any kind of summary? This is your baby now.
Why don't you start it? This is your last group meeting here.
This is my last Zoom meeting with SVFT. Yes, that is absolutely true. So no, as I say all the time, like the first time you see this, it's like a punch in the stomach. It's like, why do these people feel this way about it? I had people tell me they're retiring based on these proposals. There's a couple of things to remember. Number one, these are their proposals. These are not going to happen necessarily. We have work to do, and it's going to take time. A couple months ago, or a month ago, 6 weeks ago, winter coaches got 57% of their salary. And they said, that's what you're getting. You're only getting 57%. And people were furious. They blew up our phones. They were screaming at us. We didn't know. We didn't know until it happened. They didn't tell us. It would have been nice if they did, but they didn't. And we just said, look, we have a process. We're going to go through the process. Their next paycheck, they're getting the other 43%. They're going to get paid 100%. That there's a process and we have to go through the process, but it takes time. Arbitration is going to take time. And you should be mad because there is no reason that we should be dealing with some of the stuff that's on the table here. I'm not mad at them about the money. They have no control over the money. I'm mad at other people about the money. But there's no reason why we're dealing with this nonsense. And when they stand up, when Jeff Wibby says, in a meeting, we have some of the finest teachers in the world. It's everything he can do to not throw up on the floor. Well, then why are you treating us like why are you treating us like thieves? Why are you treating us like we're stealing the money? And you get angry, and we should be angry. We should be angry at the right people, which is not the people who are running negotiations team. And it's going to take time, and we're going to get there. We'll get there. It's a lot of work, but we're going to get there. But what they want to do is split us apart. Like, that's clearly what they want. I know the principals hate the fact that the teachers win so often. And we win because we're right most of the time. When we're not right, we don't win. But most of the time, we're just right, And so they're just trying to change the rules. But we need to be patient because most of this stuff is not happening. It's just not happening. They don't have any precedent. They don't have any comps that they can point to. They're going into a process. We have a very, very good lawyer, finally, and who's done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of contracts in the public sector, and they haven't. And so I'm really confident. You can't get too wound up. And as I've said to everyone who just says, I don't even know why I want to go to work after I see these proposals. No one got into teaching because you wanted the assistant superintendent to like you. You got into teaching to work with the kids. You know how your day's going? At the end of the day, if you had a good day with the kids, you had a good day. And all of this is noise, and it will be dealt with. We have a really good negotiating team with people who've done a lot of it. And if I wasn't 100% confident they do a great job, I wouldn't have felt comfortable leaving. They're going to do a great job, and but it's going to be a while because we can't get it settled this contract year. This session. The legislative session ends June 6th or 9th. I can't remember. First Wednesday in June. Well, then it has to be the 6th. June 6th, the session ends. No one will be out of arbitration by June 6th. So that means the earliest we can have this contract is in February of next year, because that's when the session starts again. They have to vote on it. These are 32 contracts. They do not want to cast 32 votes in an election year. We are hoping we can get somewhere setting a salary structure as a coalition, all state workers, because it's crazy. Like, it's not like we're going to get 3% in the step and the maintainers are going to get nothing, but the secretaries are going to get 11. Like, everyone's getting the same amount. Everybody's going to get the same number. So why don't we determine what that number is now and get some of this garbage off the table and see if we don't have to go to arbitration, so that when we come back, the legislators have to cast one vote in an election year for state contracts, and we could get it done then. It's easy for me to say be patient because I'm not the one with tuition on my credit card, right? I mean, people are gonna have tuition on their credit card. If we get raises, they're retroactive back to the first day of, September 1. Some of the old timers in the room will remember in like 1994. It was under Aaron. It was, I think, 96. We settled the contract we had gone out of contract for 3 years. So the first year remained to zero, but we got raises the last 2 years that were all retroactive. And so I remember opening my paycheck up and saying, "Oh my God, what happened?" Well, what happened is they paid me 2 years of raises. That's what happened. So, but patience is hard. It's hard to be patient, especially when you're treated this way.
I just wanted to add, first a reminder, May 12th is a general membership meeting. We will share what we can at that point and what we know. But I did want to take this time again, as I did on Tuesday, to thank Ed for his years of service and his help. He's been invaluable and we'll miss him. So
Thank you.
Have a great retirement. I still have your phone number, but again, thank you for all you've done.
I appreciate that. I do. I do. And I'm not, I'm a phone call away, but I'm not, I'm very, very confident in the team of officers and his membership. We have great members. As shown by the fact on a Thursday, we have 50-something people on a Zoom call at 4:30. Does anyone have any questions?
So a couple of general questions. I have been answering some in the chat as well. We are recording this video, so we will download it and share the link. Tamara can post it on the website, and we can have Lindsay send it out through email via Action Network so that you guys can have the recording if you needed to go back and look at anything. Additionally, we have set up a general email address. I'm going to put it in the chat for everyone. It's contract@svft.org. Some people have asked where they can send statements and letters of concern. So we have set up this email address to collect those and then be able to use them if and when we go to arbitration to show how frustrated and upset our members are by these proposals. So if you have a statement or you'd like to write one, you can send it to that email address. But that email address is not checked frequently. So if you have specific questions, you would want to email one of the officers directly. So that contract@svft.org is for if you want to write a statement or a letter about proposals or specific proposals that are of concern to you, you can send them to that address. And there's, again, the questions about timeline for all of this, what people can expect in terms of how this will go.
It is my expectation we will have a contract by May of 2022. It is my fear that it will be June of 2023. Because if the legislator says, I'm not voting on any contracts during an election year, that puts it in 2023. But I think it'll be 2022. That's what I think. If it's not, it's nothing we did. Like, we'll be ready. We could go to arbitration tomorrow if we had to.
Mike Sodens has a question. He has to be unmuted. So Mike, you should be okay.
Thank you. Hi, Emily. How are you? It's been a while since I've seen you. You look great. My question is the proposals. I wanted to make sure I have a firm understanding. Who is proposing all these proposals? What organization or what people or what group of people?
So I will tell you who it's the CTEC, Connecticut Technical Education, whatever it stands for. Connecticut Technical Education and Career Center is doing it. Their negotiating team is their attorney, Mark Sellenberg. What the hell's his name?
I can't remember.
Close enough.
Yeah, it's some Mark somebody. He works for Comley and Pullman and Comley, which is a pretty well-known anti-union law firm. The attorney for the CTEC, who's Susan Scott, she used to work for Pullman and Comley. The two assistant superintendents are on it.
Mara.
Two people from HR.
Yeah, and Mara, the new Jim Chassis.
Right, Mara's not the financial person. Which, by the way, Jim Chassis never did negotiations with us. One of the Ellen, what's her last name?
Morris.
Ellen Morris, who seems to have said nothing. It just seems generally embarrassed to be there. And Kim Barberi, who is the head of HR, but she's brand new. I will say this: if Karen Zuboff, who was the head of HR for 25 years, if she was there, 80% of this shit wouldn't have seen the light of day. I mean, you would never have seen it, because she would have said, "Yeah, take that out. We're not going." But nobody has that kind of experience or gravitas to do that anymore. And I think it's really being run by about 4 people: the 2 assistant superintendents, the attorney for the state, and the attorney for CTEX. I think those are the 4 people driving it.
So what's their motivation? What do they get from this? It's not like they're signing our paychecks. Who are they trying to impress by making these changes or proposing these changes?
Let me start with that one. That's a great question first, but they are literally trying to, if you look at all of them holistically and you put them all together, they want to manage us the same way they manage the assistant principals, by fear, by favorites, by not following any rules and just do as you're told, and that's it. And a couple of reasons why I say that. Everything, Bob is unbelievable at his job at executive union rep, and every single thing he's won, they've removed. So the reason is they just don't want to hear from us. They want you to do your job and keep your head down. Period.
The principals all want to be like grand duchies. Back in Italy, where like there wasn't a country, there was a couple of towns with a wall around it. Somebody was in charge. That's what they want to be. And they hate the fact that they don't get to just do that. As I said, though, during one of the negotiating sessions, I kind of lost it. And I really don't do that very often. That's Bob's job. I try to be the calm guy. And, but I lost it. And I said, I know I'm arrogant, but I'm not arrogant enough to believe that 2 friends and I could sit down and in our minds create a better system than 48 years of collective bargaining have built, with people going back and forth and trying to find a middle ground. This is a great system. I'm super proud of this system. And they're not.
Yeah.
They're not. They think they could do better if we would just shut up and get out of the way. And they're wrong. They're wrong. Because you know what? Disaffected teachers are bad teachers. Like, if you're going to work to collect a paycheck, and that's why you're teaching, you should have gotten another job where the paychecks are higher. But that's not why you're here. And, it's been, every time I go through this, I get angry again and I get hurt again. Like, it's just like, people are just hurt. It's like, my God. I said to the superintendent today, it is a long way back from the decision you guys made to bring these proposals. You have a long way to come back. Because the next time you're asked to do a favor, who's doing it?
Yeah. Any other questions, Em?
Yeah, I have a question. So is the public, are we making the public aware that the other side isn't negotiating with us? I mean, the parents have been really appreciative of the efforts that we have done. during this pandemic year. And the rewards are that we're not going to get raises and we're not going to get a contract and we're not going to get steps. I mean, this is not okay. Does the public
So-
know this?
So we have talked, we have to be careful because we are not, we declared we were at impasse, and then both sides kind of said, why don't we take a step back and see if we can figure some of this out? We can talk about the financial part because that's in the governor's budget. That's public knowledge. He put that up. And you could talk to your legislators about that, and you could talk, but like that's all state workers. That's not just us. When you get into specific proposals, like some of the things they want to do at the school level, the legislators don't care. Like that's just not what they do. Parents care, and some schools have PTOs, but we have to be in arbitration before we can do that. So, because otherwise we have an unfair labor practice because we signed an agreement saying we wouldn't do it. I could tell, we made sure the agreement said that we could talk to the members about it. Before I was an officer for under certain presidents, the tradition was to say nothing because you don't want people arguing with you about it. Like we mentioned, we've been open about the fact that we have 2 proposals for new department heads. New department heads, 3 new department heads in academics to cover the classes that aren't covered. So social studies, like either social studies and English, either math or science, and then everybody else. So that'll be 3 new department heads per school. And library media specialists, who by the way are department heads because their check says they're department heads. It says department head on their check, they just don't pay it. And that, once we showed people those proposals, I heard from both sides. Well, here's why we're more important than the other side. So that's why people don't tell them. But I mean, I've never been that way. My feeling is always, it's your union, you're the membership. Like, let's talk about it. Let's have these conversations. But we can't talk to the public in general about specific proposals until we're in arbitration. And I'm sure that Paul and the rest of the team will let you know we are in arbitration. Here are the people you should be contacting, or who are the people you think we should be contacting would be a better question, because it is true that I said in the meeting when I lost it, if they get 1/3 of their proposals, that's going to kill the system because no one will teach it. If they got 1/3 of what they wanted, there's no school system. Because you gotta have teachers to have a school system, and you're not getting it.
Yeah.
There's a question about how the lack of contract would impact those people who retire between now and when a new contract takes effect.
So the contract ends September 1. If you retire January 1, 2022, okay? And now by January 21, 2022, we will not have seen top step bonus. We will not have seen a degree scale. Degree scale is paid before that. So you wouldn't have seen that one. But once you retire, they do an audit, and they're going to have to wait until the contracts are settled to do the audit. Because if there's let's say a 2% raise plus a step, most people will retire on top step. Let's say there's a 2% raise, plus there's going to be the prorated top step bonus, plus there's going to be the degree scale to qualify. They owe you that money they owe you the money because you were working when it happened, and then it factors into your pension. So that's going to slow the audits down. I turned in my paperwork today. I'll be audited by probably I'll be audited, I'm sure, by July 1, because they're so fast now. They used to be 8 years, they're now 6 weeks. But it's going to slow the audits down. But you will get both pension credit and the money if you were working at the time the contract is covered. Does that make sense? Does it make sense to you, Emily?
Yeah,
It
but I
makes
never
sense.
listen. I never listened to retirement because it's still like 20 years away.
That makes
Don't ask
sense.
me.
Yeah, and it's like 30 years away. It goes fast.
Yeah, okay.
I still dream about my first day of class, which was one of the worst hours of my life because they just dropped me into class. I said, what am I supposed to teach? And the guy, Bruce Howard, said to me, well, don't teach devil worship. You got to fire the last person that did that. And I had a class full of 18-year-olds, and I was 22, 23. I had nothing to say to them. Oh, that was the worst day of my life. Oh my God, it was so bad.
I don't see any other questions in the chat. So if anyone has any, send them in, raise your hand. We'll give it another minute.
All right. Well, seeing none. Oh, there is one. There's a hand up.
So once the, so it sounds like we'll be without a contract for a year, but is it typical to have raises retroactive, or do we just lose that pay?
It's happened in my time. It's happened twice. Then we had retro pay. One time it was just 6 months or something. But it
I'm
was
not sure. I'm not clear on your answer.
okay. In my I started in 1985, and I have twice in that time seen retroactive pay. We haven't seen retroactive pay in the last decade because we had so many concession agreements where we had zeros followed by money. So there were zeros, like it took a while to settle it, but those years were zeros anyway. There is no justification that they have for a zero now. There are 7 statutory requirements. They can't meet any of them on that. So, as long, the way arbitration works is it's not like we ask for 3, they say 0, and the arbitrator says, okay, 1.5. It's either 3 or 0. And that's how it works in Connecticut. And so you have to be thoughtful about what you ask for. Like, they probably won't come in with 0. They'll probably come in with 1.5. And we'll probably come in with 2.5. And then we'll figure it out. But in a 4-year contract, there will be 4 proposals for general wage increase. There'll be 4 proposals for increments. There will be 4 proposals for degree scale, and there will be 4 proposals for top step bonus. Like, we'll each propose that for each year. Those are 4 separate proposals each year. So what you might see is what we saw in 2009, 2010. There was a GWI one year and an increment the next. That screwed us as a system entirely, but that's neither here nor there. But and the arbitrator tries to figure that out. In many cases, the arbitrator's gonna have to be hired by both sides. So the arbitrator knows that if he pisses off one side, he'll never get hired as an arbitrator again. Arbitrators make $2,500 a day. It's a good job. And so they try not to do that. But I think, I think we'll see something in the middle. But what I don't think we'll see is 2 zeros. And then, like, the last contract was 3 zeros and 2 3.5 plus steps, right? That was the last deal.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to be cynical, but Daniel Malloy, the governor, put the 3 zeros in the 3 years he was there, and the 3.5 in the step in the 2 years after he left, right? So we got the steps after he was already gone. So nobody blames him for the race. They blame Lamont, who had nothing to do about it. That Lamont can't do that because he's running for re-election. So he doesn't have the perspective. But I think we'll see. I have not met anybody in labor who believes we're going to see zeros in the first 2 years. I haven't met one person who thinks that. Doesn't mean it won't happen. It just means it would be shocking if it happened. Plus, we
Any
have
other
pretty good majorities in the Senate and the House right now.
Any questions, Em?
I don't see any in the chat.
All right. Well,
Seeing
thank you
none,
very
we're
much
gonna
for getting
call-
on. And please go to the May 12th meeting. Have lots of questions for Paul.